So with our lovely Mr. Z, I know Mom had mentioned that she's having some trouble with her nail time for Mr. Handsome. So remember that in the beginning, your puppy may have felt more comfortable offering a whole bunch of different behaviors or skills. As they start to mature a little bit more, they might start to be more aware of body feelings. Like, so for example, being touched one way when they were little, maybe felt fine, like again, being picked up when they were a little bit smaller. Sometimes as your puppies start to perceive things could be maybe dangerous or spooky, their comfort range may change when it comes to also handling skills. So obviously when working with any beauty, we want to make sure that handling skills are not forced, but are also sort of, again, cooperative care is really beneficial. I know I had sent along some resources a while back for when you guys had done a previous puppy class. And there's a really great Facebook group also called Cooperative Care with Deb Jones. If you haven't checked out that resource, I would recommend it. She does also have a lovely ebook or I think hard book as well. But I would highly recommend make it into sometimes moments where it's a bit of a game and not always going to be the actual nail time. So I know for some folks, taking out the clippers and just having them be part of the environment for while you're doing other skills can be very beneficial. You guys may also find, which I'm going to bring with me on Thursday, is using a scratch board. So for some dogs, the scratch board can be much easier, and for both the humans and the dogs. Because with the scratch board, the puppy has control as to how much or how little he does. And because he's the one in control of his autonomy, so his body, he then may not feel quite as stressed as he could as we're maybe sometimes holding or restraining. I find a lot of times the benefit of cooperative care is that the dog is part of the cooperation, which means that they have a say as to how fast or how slow it could maybe go at times. I know at times for us, we want instant gratification, like we can do all our toes in one big setting and just be done. As you mentioned, I know you were doing like one toe at a time, so like one toe one day, maybe the next day a different toe. For some puppies though, if they're feeling frazzled, I know you mentioned you started then mouthing as you were practicing. We don't want him to get to the point where his only way to say I've had enough is to then make contact or get flustered. Because then he might start to think that also the more overwhelmed I get, the quicker I get to saying no thank you in a way that maybe we don't love as much, the quicker the session ends. So this doesn't mean I want you to flood him and force him into nail time. But let's say, for example, we might be working on maybe a chin rest behavior, or we might be trying to work on getting targeting of his feet onto your hands. Sometimes allowing him to be the one slightly driving the wheel at times makes him feel like, again, he could opt out to do it. But I will definitely bring my scratch board next on Thursday so we can practice. But let's say, for example, we're going to work a little bit with the beginning stages of maybe, let's say, a chin rest. I sometimes like to, again, offer the food and just have them kind of put their little chin onto the hand just to get comfortable. He's like, you would like a down. Downs are very pretty, so I'm just going to feed him for all the lovely skills he offers. He looks very cute in his green today, too, by the way. So another option too is, again, we offer our hand and we're going to feed as his little chin is resting on my hand. So the benefit of a chin rest behavior, he's like, oh, and that's a beautiful foot. So we offered a lovely foot as well, is that you're trying to build up your puppy's ability to use the chin rest, or even sometimes some folks will use a platform. And what you'd be doing is when your pup is giving the chin rest behavior, but if they pull their chin off the hand, it only means for them, their perspective is I need a little break. So what can be nice about having the cooperative part of it is that since your dog has the chance to say, I need a little breather, I need a timeout, is it doesn't make your dog have to escalate in behavior because we're not listening. So again, if let's say we were practicing, if he's like, lady, I'm so excited you come to love me. Oh my goodness, thank you for the smooches. So let's say Mr. Handsome gets a little excited as we go low. I know, hold on one second, my love. He's like, we were going to wrestle. So let's say getting low gets him really excited, which is, again, no big deal, very typical. He might have thought, gee, the lady got down low because we were about to play. So we may find, I'm just going to grab a chair because that might be a little easier, an in-between step. Is if when you're ever trying something, remember that you can't always keep the criteria the same. So let's say, for example, you getting low maybe gets him really excited. That might be something we practice and we start to pair it with sort of relaxation protocols. So for example, we could also be working a little bit with his place behavior. Remember that with place, we don't want him to feel trapped. So if let's say we were working on our place, we don't want him to think that being stuck on a mat means you can't get up if you're feeling nervous. So be careful that we're not creating a situation where going to a spot equals you've lost your ability to say no thank you, or that we're forcing something on him. So the other option too is, other than doing a little chin rest, is you can then start to do a chin rest that lands onto your thighs, and you can start to create a little bit of a scenario where this could be another great way to create a target. So the target could also be, for example, a little towel that you place on your lap in the beginning, and then you could transition from the chin rest on a towel on your legs to a chin rest on a towel on a chair. So that way, even though again it's just the beginning stages, we're getting him comfortable to sometimes offer his little chin onto the target. And then right now we are luring him. Remember that eventually as he gets more comfortable, we'd want to fade out that lure. But notice how me sitting at the chair wasn't quite as exciting as me on the floor. So for some puppies, getting down low, they might think it's almost a play scenario, and then they get a little too jazzed for that setup. Nice, good boy. So again, chin, yes. Beautiful. So again, chin, yes. Good job. He's like, no, we were definitely gonna wrestle, right? Oh my goodness, the smoocheroos. So if again you get little moments where your puppy is a puppy, don't worry. Just always think, if I don't love it, even though he's being awful cute, think, what would I rather? So if let's say he goes to jump, I'm not gonna scream at him and sort of scold him, because then he might think at times I'm fun and at other times I'm scary. So we want to make sure that if let's say he's given us a little bit of a moment where he's having a hard time, break it down into a few smaller steps and do, oh, we lost that snack with the saliva, and then make it into a couple easier steps. Yes, nice, and then send him away again. So when we're practicing, it should be short and sweet and not too long. If, for example, ready, chin, yes. If it's, again, a little bit too much all at once, he could just be becoming overtired, like we've mentioned in classes, where your training session should be very nice and short and sweet. Chin, yes. Nice, yes. And then as he gets more comfortable, you could start to include a little bit more duration. So as he's resting his little chin on your hand, you could then throw in a couple extra little tidbits. So chin, yes. And then you'd feed several little snacks while rocking it. He's like, lady, this is very exciting. Ready, find it. So, but we'll definitely dive more into the cooperative care as well. But let's say you're practicing as well with his toes. You may find that obviously going ahead and offering a hand and see if he wants to give a little foot, yes. If again, he starts to get really mouthy, he could just be a little overtired. He could be teething again, getting some new puppy teeth coming through, his big boy teeth. It could be too that he's a little overstimulated. So sometimes as you're practicing, you may find you can only really work your puppy for a few minutes at a time, and that's acceptable. So remember, if he's again having a hard time with something, just break it down into smaller, little, easier, attainable steps. Nice. But what we'll do is, I think as we're practicing with some of this throughout the weeks, I'll also include maybe like a towel chin rest, because then that could also then transition to a chair. And then as he gets bigger, you could have non-restricted procedures being done. So what I mean by that, as opposed to also practicing being restrained and feeling comfortable doing so at the vet office, for example, is you could then practice non-restrictive sort of moments where he could be standing, offer a body part, and then get an exam that way. But then if he's feeling a little uncomfortable, at any point he feels like I need a little breather or a little breath, he could raise his chin and then take a little break from the behavior or the skills that you're working on. Nice job, sir. So we'll go ahead, we'll work a few more little skills with Mr. Handsome in just a second. But I think the beginning stages of working a little bit with a chin rest and a few other little steps for that cooperative care will be really helpful for him. For now, if the nail time is rather trying, remember that you don't want to pair nail time always with something he finds beneficial. And what I mean by that is if every time you're about to do nail time, you bust out a lick mat, he might start to think, now here comes nail time. So we don't want to ruin the food or taint it in a way, and we don't want to ruin, for example, a behavior by instantly rushing it and then making it seem too overwhelming. So if let's say he's doing great with a lick mat, sometimes he just enjoys a lick mat and there's nothing paired with it. If, for example, lick mats are always paired with touching toes, then he might start to be like, aha, every time they bust out the lick mat, they're going to bombard me with something I don't really love. And now the lick mat could actually start to lose its meaning from being comfortable and happy-go-lucky to now the bringer of the bad from his perspective. So we want to definitely make sure to not be too fast with some of our steps. But you did a really nice job with some of the beginning stages of that chin rest.